Today we're going to make the coffee margarita. This is a really simple drink to make, but it's got some epic ingredients, including a delicious coffee and the zero waste orange liqueur that I showed you how to make in the last video. I'll be showing you 2 more recipes using this in the next few weeks, so stay tuned for those. But for now, we're going to focus on the amazing drink that is the coffee margarita. Let's make some coffee cocktails. Alright, welcome back to the Coffee Cocktail channel everyone. I'm Dan Fellows, and today we're talking about the coffee margarita. So obviously this is inspired by the cocktail, the margarita, which everyone knows and loves, but I'm also using the coffee from Finca Margarita in El Salvador. So obviously I didn't just choose this coffee because of the name, although I do love a pun, but it was the reason I found this coffee and it works perfectly in the drink. So I actually thought it'd be a nice thing to do to give 5 bags of this away to my Patreon supporters, which you can sign up to below, which massively supports the channel. So to give yourself a chance of winning a bag of this coffee, as well as getting weekly access to my Skillshare courses, which I've just launched, including the Introduction to Cocktails, which is your kind of foundational course, as well as future Essential Cocktails Explained courses, one of which will be the margarita. You can sign up in the link in the description for as little as £3 a month. So for the coffee margarita, we're going to need a few things. First of all, we're going to need our coffee. I'm using the Finca Margarita, which is a washed Pacamara, roasted by my friends at North Star Coffee Roasters in Leeds. It's really vibrant coffee, very complex with kind of peachy notes, a little bit of red fruit and some citrus in there as well. And this is perfect in the drink. But if you can't get hold of this, you can choose a coffee with similar characteristics, although this is an extremely great coffee for this particular drink. We're also going to need an AeroPress to brew this with a Prismo filter, which is a really good kind of tool to give yourself more body, as well as cutting down on filter paper waste. Obviously, it's a margarita, so we're going to need some tequila, and I'm going with El Jimador Reposado tequila. I like something aged here. We're also going to need an orange liqueur. I'm going with this zero waste orange liqueur that I showed you how to make in the last episode, which if you want to watch, you can click above. And then obviously we're going to need some limes because this is a margarita. And I'm going with a little bit of 2-to-1 agave syrup for a little bit of sweetness to kind of balance the drink together. You'll need a coupe glass or a small martini glass or a kind of Nick and Nora glass, which we're going to rim with lime and then salt and then put in the freezer. And then we'll need our kind of standard bar tools and brewing equipment. All of the ingredients and also the tools will be linked in the description below if you want to pick them up for yourselves. So we're going to be shaking our coffee margarita because we want that really nice kind of vibrant texture, and also because it's going to contain lime juice. And whenever you have citrus in there, I recommend shaking. And we're going to start with 40 mils of our brewed Finca Margarita washed Pacamara. So to make this, I brewed it in an AeroPress with a fellow Prismo, because this gives really nice kind of body and intensity to the brew, but you can use whatever brewing device you have at home. I ground 20 grams of our Finca Margarita, finer than I would for a pour over, but not as fine as I would for espresso, and I ground it on 15 clicks on the Comandante C40. I added 20 grams of this to our AeroPress in the inverted position, and added 80 grams of boiling water, stirring it for 30 seconds. After that, I added another 80 grams, so 160 in total, of boiling water, left this to steep for a minute, and then pressed for another 30 seconds. This gives us a really kind of high body and intense brew, which is perfect for this because you want those really nice flavors to kind of cut through. But if you're using a pour over, that's totally fine. Just consider you'll have a little bit less of that intensity and less body, which you need to counteract in the recipe. And if you use a cafetiere, you'll have probably more body, more of the kind of fines getting through, so you have a little bit more body in the drink. All will work perfectly, just make sure you allow for that in the final recipe. To the coffee, we're gonna add tequila, because no margarita is complete without tequila, of course. And we're gonna go for a good healthy measure of 50 mils. And you really want this to kind of come through. This works perfectly with the coffee, particularly if you use an aged tequila, like a Reposado or an Añejo. And this has those kind of barrel-aged notes, which tie in really well with the roasted flavors of the coffee. You could use a Blanco tequila in this, but you'd get a little bit more of kind of the grassy flavor and some more acidity in there. Or you could even blend in a little bit of mezcal if you like a little bit of smokiness in the drink. So next up, no margarita would be complete without orange liqueur. And I'm gonna add 20 mils of our zero waste orange liqueur. This to me is perfectly balanced and everything I want in a glass of orange juice. This is a really good bridge between the spirit, the sweetness and the acidity, and a little bit of bitterness. But just remember, if you're not using this particular orange liqueur, make sure you factor in the level of sweetness, acidity and alcohol in order to get a final balanced drink. So something like Cointreau has a 40% ABV, which is much higher than this, so you might want to bring down the tequila very, very slightly. We're going to go 20 mils of our freshly squeezed lime juice, which is an ingredient I very rarely pair with espresso, but with filter coffee, it does work really nicely. And then to balance that, we're going to go 10 mils of a 2-to-1 agave syrup, which will bring sweetness and a kind of honey-like texture. If you don't have agave to hand, that's totally fine. You could also use honey, or pretty much any flavored syrup, or even any sugar syrup would work. It'll obviously just impact the final flavor of the drink. So now I'm going to give the drink a really good hard shake over cubed ice, and then we're going to fine strain the drink into our frozen glass, which has been rimmed with lime and good quality sea salt. So, coffee margarita. Cheers everyone. It's so refreshing. I love salt, so I'm totally okay with salt. You can add less, you can add more, depending on how much you like salt. The coffee comes through so clearly. You got citrus in there, you got the orange coming through really nicely. All those kind of red fruit notes come through from the coffee, which is really delicious. You also get a kind of salted caramel character coming through from the salt and the coffee kind of tying in with each other. And it just all comes together to be a very, very complex and dynamic and delicious drink. So if you've enjoyed this and you want to make this drink for yourself, I'll link all the tools and all the bottles in the description below, as well as my Patreon page where you can give yourself a chance of winning this delicious coffee, as well as weekly access to my long form coffee and cocktail courses. For more videos like this, you can subscribe to the channel by clicking here. And if you're a tequila fan, which I guess you are if you like this, you can watch the Espresso Picante video, which I'll put here. I'll also link more videos using our zero waste orange liqueur just down here. And I'm gonna go back to this. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.